Throughout the various playtests and demos, and then having my progress reset again after the review period, I have now played through most of Solar Crown about half a dozen times, and have picked up a lot of tips along the way that have helped make that time much more enjoyable. So here is everything I wish I knew before I started playing Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. And we'll start at the very beginning with your starter car. You get 3 to pick from: the Ford Mustang, Alpine A110, and Nissan 370Z. As with most starter car choices like this, your pick doesn't matter too much, as you can just buy them all anyway. But if you're really trying to maximize your experience, the Mustang, and especially the Alpine, are, in my opinion, the stronger picks. The Mustang isn't quite as fast in corners, but makes for a fun drift car and is very good at higher speed events, and the Alpine handles the best out of the 3, making it easier to win races and more fun to drive, which makes it my favorite starter car. The 370 is, however, the cheapest of the 3, so if you're trying to save your money, it's a good pick there, and it does still put down good times. It just feels like it's a bit of a step back from both the Alpine and the Mustang. What about your first purchase after that starter car though? Should you upgrade your first car or just swap to something else? I would heavily recommend setting that starter car aside and picking up the Audi TT RS as soon as you can. This is easily one of the fastest cars in its class, if not the fastest, and it can be upgraded to 550 performance rating with only the basic upgrade parts you'll have access to pretty early on. If you want a leg up against both the AI and other real players, grab the Audi. All-wheel drive cars are actually pretty overpowered throughout the whole game right now. You'll soon unlock the cross-country class, and the fictional Cientaro Rainita buggy is definitely among the top picks here. And once you get into the GT cars at level 20, the Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo is one of the strongest picks, again being all-wheel drive compared to most of the rear-wheel drive offerings in that class. Back to the topic of upgrading though, don't be afraid to over-upgrade any of your cars. For example, you'll notice that many of the races in the daily driver category have a max PR of about 550, but if you want to upgrade your car beyond that, the game has systems to help you out. If your car is above the maximum requirements for a race, you can just automatically downgrade it in the lobby by pressing this button, and then it will return back to your fully upgraded version once the race is over. Focusing your spending on buying only the best cars and upgrading them as much as possible is a great way to maximize your efficiency and save some money in the early to mid game. And speaking of money, let's talk about how to make some in Solar Crown. This is not Forza Horizon, and you won't be a multimillionaire without putting in some real effort and saving your cash. But there are certainly some great ways to fast track that process. To start, exploring the map is one of the best things you can do in the early game to progress quickly. There are tons of collectibles all over that give you both cash and experience, as well as experience with your clan. You can use this time to find all 28 wrecks, which will reward you with 2 free cars, and you can complete speed traps around the world. These award you with a total of 50,000 coins for getting all 3 stars, but be aware that they can only be completed once. As soon as you 3-star a speed trap, it won't make you any more money. Simply driving around the map also gives you tons of experience on its own, and is one of the best ways to level up. You gain an experience bonus for each % of the map you unlock, and every 5% that experience goes up. So for example, driving on 20% of the roads gives you 2,000 experience, and then you'll continue to get 2,000 for 21%, 22, 23, and 24, but once you've driven on 25% of the roads, that bonus gets raised to 2,500 experience. And that just keeps stacking all the way up, so you are rewarded heavily for cruising around and driving on all the roads in the map. And while you're driving around in the world, you'll probably notice the FRIM system. and this can be another decent way to make you extra money if you use it right. What this does, for anyone unaware, is basically rack up a combo as you complete driving skills, and then as long as you don't let the combo run out or break it by crashing, you can bank that combo for cash. But you can only do this 10 times per day. Don't waste these cash-ins. And there's a couple different things I mean by that. On the one hand, if you just bank everything right away and only collect the 1,000 coin payouts, the max you'll make in a day is, of course, 10,000. Not that much. However, on the flip side, if you're too afraid to waste those cash outs on small amounts and end the game every day with a bunch of cash outs left over, that's just free money you're leaving on the table. So in normal play, you're probably only ever gonna see 5 or maybe a few 10,000 coin combos, so just don't be afraid to claim those whenever you get them. I've found that it isn't very worth it to intentionally spend your time building up higher combos in order to claim higher FRIM payouts. You can absolutely use this system to make $250,000 or more in a day. It's just faster, safer, and in my opinion a bit more fun to do races and other activities to make that money instead. That said, if you do want to build up high FRIM combos, I think the easiest way to do this is to find a big open area near the highway to do donuts. It's pretty easy then to rack up drift and donut skills that'll bring you to around level 4 or so without much risk or effort, and then once you've done that enough, you can just jump onto the highway and start passing traffic cars. Do this in both directions on the same side of the highway, because passing skills are different depending on if you're going with or against the flow of traffic. If you're going against traffic, you'll get dodge skills and wrong way skills. But if you're going with traffic, you'll get overtake skills and speed skills. So if you go both ways, you can double up on that. And don't worry about going too fast here. As long as you're racking up points in either the wrong way or speed skill, you're going fast enough and don't need to risk your combo chain more by going any faster. You can just repeat this up and down the highway as much as you want, and realistically this could take you all the way to FRIM level 10 if you're good and a little bit lucky, but again, there's certainly risk involved here, because if you hit a wall or another car, you lose your whole combo. And this is part of why I think that focusing on FRIM to make money is just not quite as efficient as doing races, which have guaranteed payouts every time. So let's talk about making money with races. Right now, you can do a race 5 times before the payout starts to drop. After those 5 repeated races, the payout will be roughly halved every time you do the race again. This means that in the early to mid game, you can squeeze about 100,000 coins out of a race before it's time to move on to another one. And of course, if you're trying to make money as fast as possible, the best way to do that is to do the shortest races. So here is a list of some of the best races I've found to repeat for money. Try them all out, find your favorites and the ones that are easiest for you, and then make your own personal little roster of repeatable races that you can do every time you play in order to make some nice extra cash. For a few more notes on this, of course, be aware that you don't need to wait for other players in order to start most races. You can just click through and wait out the 10-second timer. Once you hit level 30, you'll start getting cash bonuses at the end of each race that can dramatically increase the amount of money you make every day. And it's worth noting that PvP races do not seem to have that same payout drop. If you want to focus on PvP, you can repeat those races as much as you want without the rewards dropping over time. And finally, for both PvP and solo races, don't worry much about coming first every time. Always just finish the race anyway. You actually still get almost the same rewards whether or not you win, so don't quit out even if the outcome looks bleak. Now, as a final tip for money making, this one's pretty simple, just don't forget about your tasks. You can find these in the map by hitting this button, and you get new tasks every 5 levels. A lot of these are pretty easy to complete, and also award you with a lot of experience to level up. So if you're ever feeling a bit stuck and don't know what you should do to progress in the game, just take a look at your task list. Now let's talk about the driving a little bit. Solar Crown uses what's called a simcade driving model, meaning that it's grounded in a sense of reality, but still bends the rules to make the driving a bit easier than real life. Don't be afraid to use whatever assists you like. Traction control can absolutely be helpful to keep cars in line in the higher classes, and stronger ABS can help you brake without locking up your wheels. The fewer assists you use, the more money you'll make at the end of races. So there is definitely some incentive to play with less, but if you're not having fun with the driving, then you're not having fun. So just use whatever you want and try to slowly work towards fewer assists over time so that you can make more money after races. A great way, though, to help tailor the driving more to your style without affecting race payouts is by adjusting your driving mode. You'll unlock preset modes for each car pretty early on, which you can definitely experiment with, but at level 20, you unlock custom driving modes, which are an extremely valuable tool if you know how to use them. For players familiar with the Horizon games, this is essentially the same full tuning menu you see in Horizon. However, Solar Crown's version has an easy mode. Here, you can mix and match any setting you want to create the driving style of your choice. For example, if you find that the car is still understeering too much under braking, you can try to soften braking pressure. And then if you want to get custom with it, you can move the bias more towards the rear, which will give you a lot more mobility under braking. Just be aware that this does make the car less stable as well. As a super generalized rule for tuning, a softer front end or stiffer rear end will lead to more oversteer, and if you flip that around with a stiffer front end and softer rear end, that will give you more understeer. But of course, being a full tuning menu, there is a lot more depth to that that's going to require a full guide on its own, which I'm probably going to work on. But in the meantime, just feel free to experiment with the easy modes, or if you're a bit more comfortable, the full tuning menu itself. I've already spent quite a bit of time playing with it, and it can drastically change how cars feel. Alright folks, now let's wrap up this video with a couple of quick fire, more quality of life focused tips. First things first, be aware that you can leave your clan. It's not a permanent choice, but it will wipe all your progress with that clan as soon as you leave it. If you really want to get everything out of the game though, and unlock every possible clothing item and sticker and other reward, you can max out one clan and then leave it to go max out the other. Next up, and this one was a lifesaver for me, you can fast travel inside buildings, like the hotel lobby for example. If you just booted up the game for the day and want to get out on the road as soon as possible, you can just head to the lobby, open the map, and fast travel to wherever you want to go, instead of having to walk through the lobby and out the main door. This also works in other spaces like the workshops or dealerships. If you don't want to spawn right outside that shop, just open your map inside and go wherever you want. Finally, when you're browsing dealerships, you might notice that some cars cost a little more or a little less than others, even though they're the exact same model. This is just because it's showing the price of the car with the options shown, so the paint color, wheels, and interior choice. Every car of the same model does cost the exact same price, it's just the optional extras that increase that price. So don't feel like you have to hunt for the cheapest version in the dealership, just focus on the cost of your own paint and trim options. And folks, that is just about everything I've got for you. I hope you found at least a couple of helpful tips in this video. And of course, if you have anything that you think is helpful for new players to know, definitely write it down in the comments so that everyone can see, and I'll try to upvote or heart stuff that I think is super helpful. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.